Sifu Raphael is the founder and host of Coaching Call, Heroes Rising, The Seer Show, and New Tip Daily. He works with individuals, groups, and businesses and helps them find clarity, purpose, and understanding of who they really are in business and personal life. Sifu Raphael has used his skills to develop a variety of multifaceted businesses in the martial arts and fitness industries. He owns and operates a 10,000 square foot martial arts and fitness facility in New York. Jose Escobar is an award-winning, nationally recognized personal development speaker, published author, and sales professional. He leads compelling, high-level communities consisting of entrepreneurs and advanced leaders through his two business models, the Entrepreneur's Bookshelf and the Connected Leaders Academy. He is also the co-host of Heroes Rising.
Fong, good afternoon. Happy Friday, my friend. Thank you so much for stepping in. How are you?
I'm happy to be here and got big shoes to fill, so I'm going to do my best.
How do you know his shoe size? I'm just kidding.
Always a pleasure.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for doing it. I mean, you know, I think highly of you. So that's the only reason I asked you.
Oh, likewise.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. So let's bring, we have Dr. Marianne Padjan. She's coming on the show and she is an exceptional human being. Marianne, happy Friday.
I want to do that way. Happy Friday for sure. I just got back from the dentist, so it's super extra happy because now I don't have to go back for like 3-4 months. So I love that. As much as I love my dentist, I don't need to be going all the time.
It's funny, before we came on live, Fong was talking about he didn't know anybody who's ever loved a dentist.
No, I said I would never ever say those words that I love my dentist because I just don't get it.
Well, but that's because you don't have my dentist.
There you go.
I've had extensive dental work done, and he's a surgeon and really good. But today I just went in for a cleaning, and I have a new hygienist, and I love her. She's amazing, super gentle. So
there you go. So when it comes to even we're talking about dentistry, setting boundaries, and even customer-oriented selling, doctors have to set boundaries, don't they?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about that for a minute, because Dr. Marianne, you're here with us. Why is it important for not only doctors, but each one of us to set boundaries?
Well, doctors have to set boundaries. I mean, today I was running a little late because my dentist is quite a way away from me. It's like a hairdresser for a female. We'll travel far. So for me, I'll travel far for a really good hygienist. But I was a little late. But, you can't be late. You can't miss your appointment all the time. And we would like to, right? Because nobody ever wants to go to the dentist. So it's like, I don't want to go. So I don't feel like going today. So I'm just not going to show up. Yeah, well, they have to charge you, right? Mm-hmm. So they have to do something to make you come, because nobody wants to go there. So you have to honor their time too. So that's probably their boundaries. But I think in business, we have to practice some boundaries. I mean, gosh, people would do all kinds of things. Like they'll ignore our invoices. They won't pay. Even if we give them a payment plan, they don't pay on time, right? So it's like, or when you're coaching, oh my gosh, your session's an hour. It's going to be an hour. I don't mind an hour and 5 minutes if I have time, even an hour and 10 minutes. But if you're trying to squeeze an hour and a half out of me, I probably won't have time, and just other things too. And then let's say for me, one of the things I do is books. Okay. So one of the things I hate doing when I'm putting a book together is babysitting and chasing down people to give me their chapters. Do you want to be in the book or not? That's it, and then I got to send out a final notice. Okay. I've called you 3 times. I've asked you politely, if I don't have your chapter by such and such a date, we're going to have to leave you out of the book. You just
That's it. Cut them out. Cut them out.
Yeah. And then the same thing goes with my summits, right? I do a virtual summit. Oh my gosh. You know how many people don't show up or are late or, or, oh, I can't do this. Or I was just talking about this very thing today. They'll come on, they'll tell me that they are, paid speakers, they're professional speakers, they're professional this, that, and the other. So they take I only speak for like 15 minutes. And I'm like, what would you like me to do for the other 15 minutes? Like, you're supposed to talk for the full half hour. Like, what's going on with that? Or the opposite.
They overtalk. Yeah.
You have 15 minutes or 20 or whatever, and off they go. And I'm like, and they're like, oh, I don't have a timer. You have a phone. And you're probably on a computer. And I know computers have timers. I don't particularly use one, but I use my phone. So.
Well, both Fang and I are professional speakers, just like you are. When it comes to setting boundaries in all areas of our lives, I think it's important because, Fang, you've been at places when you're a speaker. They tell you when you're going to come on. They tell you when you're going to come off. You go to a deal. For example, I had a client that they were not present, and I called up and I said, "Are you coming?" "Oh yeah, we're going to be on the way." I'm like, "Okay. Your session starts in 2 minutes." Usually they're here earlier. "Oh, yeah, we'll be there at this time." I said, "No, at that time your session will be over. I have other clients." "Okay, well, we're on our way." "Okay." I said, "Whatever time you come, if you only have 5 minutes left, that's all I can give you because I have another client." They showed up when their time was over and expected me to give them the time. I said, "Listen, I'm extremely sorry." I said, "But we will have to reschedule." And they paid well. And I'm like, "You don't understand. I wouldn't do that to you because if you're here and then I have to say no to you because I waited for somebody else who didn't show up in time." No, it doesn't work. So it's important for us to set boundaries and let them know. One of the things I do is if we have an appointment and you don't show up, just like a dentist, you get charged. You get charged. And it's interesting when that person said to me, "So am I going to be charged?" I'm like, "Yeah, I was waiting. I could not fill that spot because you took it." Right? So tell us about your experiences, Fang.
Sorry, it also speaks towards what's priority. If it was their paid vacation and they have to make that flight, they'll be there early.
Oh yeah.
Right? You'll know they have like 4 or 5 alarm clocks ready to go to make sure that they're up and ready to go, and they'll be there 3 hours early just because they don't want to miss their flight. It's about priorities. It's about what they believe is more important than something else, and then it's respect. When you're talking about speaking on stages and there's other speakers, well, everybody else is going to be pushed back because you're taking more time. And if somebody else did that to you, you wouldn't like it either. And it's just, what do you need to do to ensure that, one, you get called back? Because if you're always going to be taking more time, then probably the person's not going to get you back to speak again, knowing that you're probably high maintenance and they have to deal with everybody behind you. So if you want to be able to repeat and go back and be called back and all that kind of stuff, you need to respect the rules. You got to respect the boundaries. You have to respect all the other people that's involved. Now, if you're top of the top A list and all that people stuff, your boundaries may be certain things that other people need to be more flexible on, and they'll have to reschedule everything for you because you have that credibility, you have that status, you have that ability to really impact more people, but it's on their boundaries. So you have to play the game. It's at the end, it's the game that you have to play in order for you to really succeed and build those relationships well.
I love the fact that you said you have to play the game, because it is a game.
It is.
It is a big game.
It
And
is.
depends on how well you want to play it, right? The better you know the rules, the more success you'll have.
It's true. And having a bricks and mortar place is really, that's where the whole on time becomes even more important. Although, if you have a schedule that is from hour to hour, I mean, that's equally as important. So if you come in late, that's fine. If you only have 20 minutes, that's what you're going to get from me. We're not giving you another appointment. We're not doing that. You have to respect what's going on here. But I love your analysis with the airplane. Yeah. You're going to get up at 2 a.m. or 3 to catch that plane because you want to go on vacation or wherever it is you're going. You don't want to miss that plane. So that's just the way it is. I used to have a client that maybe I had a few, but just this one. I made a little exception for her, but I figured it out. So she was one of my favorite clients, but she was always late. Always late. Never, ever, never. I mean, never on time. So I had her a few times and I thought, okay, you know what? She's always late. I'm now going to book her appointments a half an hour late. I'm going to say 2, but I'm going to be ready for her at 2:30. And I'm going to give myself the full hour. And this is how we're going to mitigate this. Because I've spoken to her, but, also she was one of my favorites. Like I really enjoyed her and she spent a lot of money. So she was a good client and had her girls coming in and like a whole family thing. So it was a spa that I had. And so, we kind of made this unpronounced deal. And then one day she came in on time and I'm like, what are you doing here? And she goes, right? And I go, yeah, what's that got to do with what time you're here at? Like, you're always late. She goes, I am not always late. And I said, yeah, you are. By this time we were friends and I could actually say that to her. And I go, no, honey, you've been late the whole time. In fact, I made an exception for you that I book you a half an hour. So really your appointment's not for another half an hour. And she goes, you're kidding, right? Like, am I that bad? And I go, it's been like this for 3 years.
Oh my gosh.
3 years.
But the whole thing is you understood the rules that she was playing with.
Yeah.
And therefore you won.
And she did have a very busy lifestyle. Oh my gosh. Like she ran a company, she ran a big giant family. She had 4 kids and I don't even know how many grandkids. Like there's just a ton going on in her life. And, any number of reasons could make her late, but I enjoyed her. And also as a client, from a business point of view, she was a great client for a lot of other reasons. So I did what I could.
Got a couple of things to add to that. I think when it comes to being coaches, being entrepreneurs and whatnot, setting boundaries for ourselves is very important too. Not only do we set our boundaries for our clients, but setting it for ourselves allows us to determine whether or not that client is a good client or not, and whether or not to fire that client. If we hold strong to what our own boundaries are, we are able to weed out the ones that don't really fit. Like if somebody keeps on disrespecting the timeline or disrespecting the process and all that kind of stuff, eventually you know what? You're not a good fit. It doesn't matter how much you're being paid. Doesn't matter how much other clients they're bringing in. Sometimes you just have to go, you know what? I have to cut that connection. The other thing I wanted to share was also ask the questions to the people who's actually putting things together. If there's a timeline, getting all the information that you can, understanding more about the cultures, the background of the people that you're working with, talking to. And the reason why I say that is many years ago, I got invited to speak at this one event. And the event was supposed to start at, I believe it was noon. So I went there at 11 o'clock, making sure that I have everything set up. I tested everything. I'm ready. And I'm ready for people to show up early so I can mingle and build relationships before I actually have to speak. Well, 11:30 comes around. Nobody shows up. I'm like, that's odd. I looked over at the person who's organizing the event. They were completely fine with it. Completely cool as a cucumber. He's like, yeah, this is normal. I'm like, really? Okay, 11:45. Nobody shows up.
That is odd.
This is kind of odd. And then at 12 o'clock, a couple of the people I told to come to an event because saying, hey, I'm speaking. If you want to come join us. They showed up at 12. And I go, there's nobody here yet. And they're like, oh yeah, that's normal. I'm like, this is odd. Why am I
That is very odd.
why am I the only one that's questioning this whole thing? By like 12:30, 1 o'clock, people start trickling in. I'm like, this is really weird. And then so I didn't get to speak until I think it was 2 o'clock. I was scheduled. They told me to speak at 1. I didn't speak until 2:30. And then 3 o'clock, people still showed up and goes, am I late? I'm like, yeah. Kind of. So it turns out that this culture that I was speaking with, it's normal that they don't show up 2-3 hours after the stated time. And because of that, nobody shows up early and nobody shows up on time. I'm like, well, it would be nice if you told me this before, then I would have come so early, right? But it was just really weird. And it goes to how important it is for you to find out the background, all the information that you can, so that you're not putting yourself in a position where you're completely confused what's going on. So that's kind of neat.
I love it.
It's interesting. I had a client, actually, he was a tenant in my commercial space, and he had a martial arts school, and his classes were supposed to be at 6 to 8. Okay. And nobody showed up at 6. It's just like you were saying. And it was like that. And then he would complain to me. I'm not getting new clients. I'm like, because you have no structure. Your martial arts school, you should have structure. People strolled in whenever, at 6:30, 6:45, and then they would want him to stay open longer. So now he would show up at 6. He didn't even show up earlier than 6. He'd show up at 6. Sometimes people were waiting for him, so they stopped showing up initially. And then instead of going home at 8 o'clock, he can close the place down. He was going home at 9 o'clock, sometimes 10. Because he didn't set the boundaries, he allowed the latecomers to set the boundaries. And so it became the norm that nobody ever came at 6 o'clock. And it was pretty interesting. And of course, he's no longer a tenant of mine. I actually asked him to move out because it was detrimental to the other businesses that were occupying the space, because it was a common use space. So it was not good for anybody else. So I gave him a year, and then I was like, okay, time. I only signed a year agreement with him, and I said, I'm not renewing. Thank you. Because it did not, for the other businesses that were running, because it is a common use space, it did not help them, because now somebody always had to stay around till he finally closed so they can close their business. So it was not productive for anybody except for him, obviously.
Well, speaking about tenants, I work with a lot of tenants, and one of the most common things that people are afraid about when it comes to doing rental properties and whatnot is getting that phone call in the morning or at middle of the night. Hey, I need to fix this, or you need to come and fix that, and all that kind of stuff. That's what most people are afraid of, and that's why they don't get into rentals. What I've done is I've made sure that all my tenants communicate with me through text messages. I tell them I never pick up the phone. If you want to get a hold of me, text me everything I need to know. And that's my boundary, because I don't want to be caught off guard with whatever that you have at the moment that you need to complain about or that I need to address. And secondly, if you spend the time sitting there actually text messaging or emailing or something to me, you're actually going to sit there and then think about how you're going to communicate before you just call me, kind of thing, right? So I get a more calm message if it is something that's important. I also get a record of it so that if anything does happen, I could use it for whatever reference documents and all that kind of stuff. So one of the things I think lots of people should do when it comes to rental properties and whatnot is to train their tenants to make sure everything is either email or text messages, so that it makes your life so much more easier.
That's great advice. Great advice. The documenting conversation, I think it's very important nowadays. because we get this he said, she said type of deal, and that never plays out well. When we consider, if we say to somebody, just like you tell your tenants, this is how you communicate with me, and you made it clear. Yet, if you were not to look at your text messages, then that wouldn't be good for you. But you do, obviously, because you run a good business. But a lot of people, they'll tell somebody how to communicate, yet they don't follow up themselves. And I have clients like that who I call them, text them, email them, and yet still no response. And then I see them and they're like, I never got it. I'm like, really? You want me to tell you exactly when you did actually? Because the good thing with text messaging is you can tell when they received it. You can also tell when they opened the email, and it costs you a couple of bucks to see even how many times they opened it. So I've sent emails to people, business related, and it says how long it took them before. Whoops, there goes my camera. So it kind of goes into
We know you're
how
crazy.
how many times they opened it and how soon they opened it once they received it. So I've had people who tell me that I didn't get it. Meanwhile, they opened it 2 minutes after I send it, and then they looked at it 13 to 15 times.
Oh, wow.
So but I have that information.
I don't know how to do that. I'm not that techy. And I have I don't have an iPhone, so I can't see when someone.
It's not on my iPhone, so it's a really cool. It's for my my emails. It's not for text messaging, but it's for my emails.
Yeah,
so when I send that out, I know who opened it, how many times they looked at it, if they went back to it, if they clicked the link. So this is how we stay ahead of the curve, if you will, right? When we send out information.
That's funny. That's funny.
It works.
But I know that people who have iPhones, they can see when you've answered their text message, right? Or seen it, or when you've looked at it or something like that. It's like Messenger in Facebook. Then you can tell when someone's looked at it or somehow touched it or whatever. That's funny. It's funny how we all have tenants too. Yeah. But I'm blessed. I feel like I'm blessed. I have really, really great tenants. Like right now, I have, I'm super blessed, lucky. I have the most amazing tenants. I have one that is on welfare, and she gets $1,000 from welfare, and then she e-transfers me the rest. So I will always get paid something, right? Even if she does nothing, I'll get a direct check from welfare. But she's great. But she's on welfare because she's a single mom, and the kids are little, and she has to stay home. The other ones went there because it's close to a college. The other ones, it's a young couple that went to college there. They met at college. They hooked up. Now they live together. It's a two-bedroom condo, and they live there. And I swear, anywhere from 6 to 3 days would be the latest that she would send me her rent before it's due. So like if it's the 1st, I always get it by the 27th or 6th or sometimes the 5th, like 25th. Like it's crazy. I love it. I love my tenants. I love them.
I had a mentor of mine. This is what he did when he started getting properties. It was very funny. He went to a bar a couple of times until he saw the biggest guy he can find. This guy was 6'8", 380 pounds, big guy, scary looking. And he goes, I got a perfect job for you. He goes, what do you do now? Oh, some manual labor. He goes, you're going to make a lot more money with me. He goes, tell me more. So he goes, I'm going to introduce you to my tenants. When somebody first gets my location, he says, I'm going to meet you at the apartment with the key. And then he brought this guy, Rob, along. And he goes, I'm so-and-so, I'm the landlord. This is Rob. You will see him on the 1st every month. He will be collecting the rent.
Yeah.
he said he actually employed that for the last 18 years. He's never had trouble because the guy, he goes, I don't want you to like dress up. I want you to look as mean as possible, but I want you to be super nice to them.
Of course.
And if they have any messages, you relay them to me. He goes, but you collect the rent.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. You're
and you're going to get paid well. And the guy's been with him for all this time. And it's one of the smartest things. He goes, it's the cheapest amount of money I've had to pay anyone.
Mm-hmm.
And even though the guy makes a bundle of money, to the guy, it's a lot of money. To my friend, it's not a lot. To my mentor, actually, it's not a lot of money because he's never had problems.
Mm-hmm. Never.
So-
Why would he? Who's going to go up against him, right?
So a lot of people are like, oh, we don't have the rent. And then knock, knock. Oh, wait a minute. I'll wait here for you to go get it.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, I'll be right back. I'm going to the bank. Okay. No worries. I'll wait for you.
Yeah. I actually know someone who has a number of different properties, and he actually puts together a whole system, and he's an not yet. He's going to be retiring at the end of this year. He will be an ex-cop. So he also is like maybe 6'3" or 4. And he does all the managing. So he usually does like a syndicate, like a bunch of different people. So I don't know all these terms if they're still used in the US as they are here in Canada. But yeah, he does all of that. He is the go-between, and they all know he's a cop because he only deals in his area. Because he also doesn't want to travel. He goes, I don't really want to travel that far. So
Right.
he goes, I'll go an hour, but that's about it. It's amazing. And real estate, anything to do with real estate. I had a buyer once that was a little bit, I like to say this. I always say it this way. People laugh. He's a little bit of an alcoholic.
A little bit.
Yeah. And I normally turn my phone off. But I think my parents were still alive, or my dad was still alive. And so, my parents were at the nursing home. They both had dementia. I would keep my phone on in case there was any emergencies and whatnot. So this particular tenant called me at 5 o'clock in the morning, and I'm like, oh, no, you don't call me at 5 o'clock in the morning for any reason. I am selling the property that you live in. You're a tenant now and you're looking to buy it. And I'm the real estate agent. I am not your property manager. I live an hour and a half away from where you live. I am not your go-to person. And just because you had an idea, you hold on to that idea. He goes, you don't have to answer your phone if you don't want to. And I said, thank you so much for telling me what I'm going to do. With my
Anyway.
Right? Thank you. However, you are to never call me again at this time.
I like Fang's idea where it's only text, he will not answer the phone. Right.
That's
So
right.
I think that makes a lot of sense because, and I love what you said, Fang, because it gives them time to think.
Yeah. They're not just
Because
lurking.
imagine if they just called you and they said, oh yeah, I saw somebody outside, or a nonsense kind of call. They're wasting your time, and how valuable is your time? Can you imagine you're about to go on stage, Fang, and you're getting a call with somebody who just wants to talk to you about the property that you own because maybe the grass is a little longer than they like it to be? That's not a phone call that you want to take, right? That's better a text message.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Or you just put your phone away.
You put it on, like I have it now. I have it on Do Not Disturb.
That's right. Do not call me. No,
If you do, it goes to voicemail. I'm good with that. You know?
This particular gentleman was a buyer. Actually, he was. Yeah, I don't do leasing for that reason. Even my own tenants, I didn't get them. I hire a property management company. I don't want to be a landlord. I just want to be an investor. There's a difference. You can pay people to do that.
Well, let me give you guys a minute to take a look at this. This is Jose. He's normally here with us, but he's quite busy today, so take a look.
Hi, my name is Jose Escobar, and I'm the founder and CEO of the Connected Leaders Academy. We're a growing tribe, a community of entrepreneurs all over the world, globally, all across the country, high performers, titans of industry. If you're an entrepreneur and you're looking to grow personally and professionally, scale your influence, develop your skill sets, move the needle in your business, more clients, more money, more profit, the bottom line, and of course, grow your circle and your network like never before, this is where you want to be. Join the Connected Leaders Academy today. We are scaling massively. We want to welcome you in. Check me out on Instagram and on Facebook, the @ JAESCO25. We look forward to having you join us. Take care.
Yeah, great stuff. Laurie McNeil says boundaries. They are important, aren't they?
Hey, Laurie.
Yeah. So she's here with us, and she says how boundaries are important.
Super.
But so important. Because if we don't set boundaries, they'll step over you.
Mhm.
They don't understand that. Maybe, hey, you know what? I don't want to be called at 5 a.m.
Mhm.
Unless you give them the permission. So it's setting that boundary, setting that permission for someone. I know, Marianne, if I was to call you at 5 o'clock in the morning, you would take my call, but I would never do that.
I would if my phone was on, yes.
Right. But I would never do that because I have respect for you and your time, right?
Right, but also,
I'm sure you would take my call, right?
also if you were to call me at 5 a.m, I'd say like, oh my gosh, what's the emergency? What can I do to help? Like I would, because you would never do that. So it would, yeah. So
It would be a first for sure. You can call me at 5. I'm up anyway. So
I know you are, but I'm not. Not usually. Sometimes, not always, though.
right.
It's funny when I go understand different cultures and backgrounds and whatnot. Even my own culture, my mom uses exclamation marks differently than what we're used to. So when she texts me and she goes exclamation, I'm like, oh no, I gotta call her back right now. And I call her back. She goes, so are you coming for dinner? I'm like, what? Because in her mind, exclamation mark means, so are you like, call me back. I'm like, that's not what it means.
That's cute. That's
well,
cute.
well, now you know, right? Now you know.
I put a lot of those into my text messages back to her.
I use a lot of exclamation marks because I get excited about everything. So it's like, oh, what did I tell you? Exclamation mark, exclamation. Okay.
I was told to only use one. Otherwise, I'm yelling.
Oh, no, that's caps. Oh, I write in caps all the time, and I don't mean to. I'm not even looking at what's on my list. I'm just trying to hurry up and do stuff in between clients or whatever I'm doing. So, yeah, I do that. People are like, why are you yelling at me? And I'm like, yelling. What makes you think I'm yelling?
Actually, I got a question for both of you. When it comes to boundaries, like we said before, if we set it, we want to maintain it. However, you also want to give sometimes a leeway. Like if a person is late on rent, I'm a sucker for, okay, you get one warning, and then next time we're gonna enforce whatever rules we enforce. What's your tolerance? For, let's say, is it 2-3 times? One time and you're strike one, you're out. What's your process?
It depends. I like to give people chances because I think I forget stuff a lot and I get so busy and overwhelmed. So I really hope people give me grace. So I usually give grace. I think grace is okay because you don't know. But if it's the same person with the same thing each time, I don't know, how much more grace can I give? You know what I mean? Like then it's like, oh God, this is now a habit. This isn't really, it's not really a boundary issue. But I have a friend of mine. Now we've been friends since we were 16. We're both 62 now. And that's a long time to be friends. That's like a relationship. I've been with her longer than her husband has, so she now has developed over the course of COVID and whatnot. She's developed some anxiety, some pretty intense anxiety. And so she'll call me, she'll text me, and I said, look, listen to me carefully. I don't read long text messages. I know people laugh at me all the time. I don't like long text messages, and I basically don't read them unless they're from an existing client that is, and usually a real estate client or something. I usually don't read. I just can't. I have almost no tolerance for that. I think if you needed to write me that long of a text message, you should probably call me. Or what I love, oh my gosh, I know this drives some people crazy, is I love those voice clips. I leave voice clips for everyone because I'm driving and it's easier to do a voice clip than it is to text. Or I'm now stepping away from the computer. I'm going to grab some coffee. It's easier for me to do this than right? So I understand that drives people crazy, but hopefully they'll forget me. But if it's a really text message, especially from her, I'll be like, oh, honey, I can't even read that. So one day I was at her house and I lifted up my phone and I'm like, oh my God. She goes, what? And I go, look at the size of this text message. She goes, yeah, but you got to read it, right? I go, no, I'm not going to read it. And I left the phone and she goes, really? You're not going to read it? And I go, I might read it later on. I don't know, but it can't be an emergency if it's that long. And she's like, so I'm not the only one? And I'm like, no, you're not the only one, but don't text me long messages. And don't call me at 9:00 at night to discuss anything. At 9:00, I'm starting to unwind. Unless it's one of those crazy days and I have to work until 11 or 11:30, which do happen. I try not to. I really try to, I try to set boundaries for myself as well. Like 9:00, you're done. You're stepping away from the computer and it's over. Your day is over unless I'm working on an offer, right? Like as an agent, you don't really have much of a choice that way, which is fine. But if I'm doing an offer, I'm probably excited and awake anyway. So that's good too. And so, yeah, so she'll call me and I said, no, I'm not talking to you because it's after 9 and it's a voice clip, right? And she's like, I can't believe you. And I go, yeah, that's okay. See you later. Bye. Have a good day.
Here's a suggestion when somebody writes you a book in a text, put a bunch of question marks, and then they'll write another book. And so they occupied their time. What I do, and I do believe in Grace, right? And Grace, she's a beautiful girl, right? But when we consider, when it comes to my time, you can never give me that back, ever, right? So if you're going to waste my time, guess what? I'm going to get paid for it. And when I start working with a client or clients, I let them know, these are the rules. If time is involved and you take my time away, you're paying for it. It's that simple. There's no ifs and no buts. Now, if somebody had an accident, something like that, and they couldn't be there, then yes, that's where I give grace. But otherwise, because guess what? I just got older waiting for you. And I can never get that hour, 2 hours, hour and a half back.
It's true.
It's not going to happen. So we have to sometimes be firm but fair. And I think that if we let people know, hey, listen, it's not that I don't value you, but do you value me? What's important to you? What's important to me? Right? Because guess what? Just like I tell any of my members or my students, when they feel pain, I say, well, congratulations. What? I'm in pain. I said, yes. You wouldn't feel it if you were dead. So enjoy the pain. Enjoy the pain.
Good way of looking at it. Too funny.
Well, I understand pain. And pain, every time I feel pain, it just lets me know that I am alive. I'm grateful. Don't get me wrong, pain stinks. But it's also notification, like we have on our phones, right? We get notified. We get a ding, we get a this, we get a that. You got to, oh, I feel that. Oh my gosh. That's a notification. Thank God for that. Without those notifications, maybe we won't go to the doctor. Maybe we'll overdo something, right? People pass out. Do you know why they pass out? They forget to drink. Or they pass out when they come into your presence because you're so beautiful.
Oh, you're such a charmer. That's good. Yeah, I
I
think
was talking to Fong. I'm just, both of you, by the way. Both of you.
I'm gonna have
Something
to
else
drink too.
I'm kind of
Cheers.
something else I'm interested in knowing is what goes in your mind the moment something happens that crosses your boundaries. Okay, the moment that person doesn't show up, the moment that somebody cuts you off, the moment somebody misses the complete meeting, what's going in your mind? Are you
I'll go first.
calling them out? Are you like, what's going in your mind right there?
I got to tell you right away, the first thing is I hope they're okay. That's the first thought. Somebody cuts me off, I'm like, they must be in a hurry.
I agree.
Or I think they're more important than I am. They should go ahead of me. If somebody gives me the finger and I'm on the road, I'm like, wow, they think I'm number one. Look at that. Otherwise, they would have given me two fingers and they would have said I'm number two. But they think I'm number one. I am so grateful to them. It's if you start in gratitude and you start in understanding that there are things that are more important than you. Don't get me wrong. We come first. We should always come first. But we come first in order to make others important.
Mm-hmm.
We have to do that. We have to be selfish first. Without that selfishness, we can't serve anyone. So when somebody doesn't do what they're supposed to do, the first thought I hope they're okay. And if I reach out to a text, listen, we had a gentleman that was supposed to be here with us today. I'm not going to put his name out there, but he didn't come. Now, I hope he's okay, but he stood us up. But I'm hoping that he's okay. Now, my protocol is if he forgot and he apologizes profoundly, I may give him another chance. But if I don't hear from him and I'm the one that has to reach out and say, are you okay? Oh, yeah, I forgot. Then maybe the second chance is not deserved, right? We all deserve second chances. But if we feel like, yeah, I need a second chance. No, you get a second chance because someone else believes you deserve the second chance. Second chances are a gift.
Mm-hmm.
I had a gentleman who's still reaching out to me, still 2 years later, didn't come on my show. I gave him a second chance, didn't show up. He asked for a third one. And for some reason, I must have gotten kicked in the head that day. And I said, okay, still didn't show up. Third time. And I said, what is wrong with me? And I said, no. When he reached out again, I said, absolutely. You can come on the show. It's going to cost you this amount of money.
Mm-hmm.
What do you mean?
Mm-hmm.
I said, you just blew 3 of my chances. I could have had other guests on. Mm-hmm. So do I want to give you that opportunity?
Yeah.
Absolutely. But now you have to pay for it. He never paid for it, but he still, every so often I get an email. I really want to be on your show. And I go, refer to the previous email. Because my time is money. And that was my mistake. I did not understand. And because he was a big time, he's a you know who kind of guy. He's the guy that you said we have to make exceptions for. And I thought, okay, he's a big name. I'm going to make an exception for him. It was my mistake. And we learn. So do I give somebody the benefit of doubt? Absolutely. Do I think ill of them? No. They're human, just like I'm human. Marianne said she forgets things. She and we're accountability partners, by the way, and we communicate. Sometimes she can't make it. She lets me know. Sometimes I can't make it. I let her know. But we're not just standing there waiting for one another. And if anything, if it's like, oh, give me 5 minutes, I'm running late, that's fine. That's not a big deal. We haven't done that yet. I'm sure it's going to come up at one point or another. But
I haven't been late yet. What's wrong with me?
You have not. You've been exceptional, my friend. So we have to be accountable to our time. Because at the end of our day, at the end of our life, no one is going to go, hey, man, I stood you up a couple of times. I'm sorry. Let me give you that half hour back. Let me give you that hour back. All of a sudden, you have like, what, a year left when it was your last day? Doesn't happen. So don't let somebody steal your life. That's my thoughts. Thanks for that question.
My thoughts on, I probably also very likely to give too much grace before, but once I cut you off, we're done. Don't email me. Don't bother. I don't read it anyways. It's too long. I won't read it. If it's a text, for sure, I'm not reading it. If you've cut me off, the first place I go to is the same as you. You're probably in a hurry. Like, what if you have to, you just found out something happened to your child, they're in the hospital. Like, you don't know what's going on. If it's a sports car and if it's a younger person, chances are that's not the case, but it is what it is. You need to go in front of me, go. Like, I will be okay being late or whatever, because I just think life is, it is what it is. We're human, but I would do this. Good for you for the 3 times. I don't think I would 3, maybe for someone special, but usually once, yes, for sure. No problem. Twice, maybe, depends on how you approach me. Same kind of thing. Did you apologize? Did you understand what you did? Because if you didn't quite understand, but then I want to know, why don't you understand? So my friend who calls me at 9:00 at night thinks I have an empty day like she does, right? She doesn't do anything all day. She doesn't have small children. She has a cleaning lady. You know what I mean? Like, she doesn't have my lifestyle. So she doesn't understand my schedule. And how can you possibly be working at 9:00 at night, And she doesn't understand that I'm tired and that I need to unplug and maybe watch some mindless television or do a meditation or something. I'm doing something at that time I don't want to be bothered with. So, sometimes people just don't understand. Working people understand everything with, us. But again, I don't do what she does, right? So I don't suffer from anxiety, and so I know what it's like, because I have a lot of clients with anxiety, but you've also got to make an effort. And she doesn't. For a long time, she didn't even move. Like, she wouldn't make an effort. But if you're trying to get yourself better, then okay, let's try to work on that. But once for sure, twice probably, not always, maybe. Hey, Spencer. They sure do. And then the 3rd time, I don't know, you've got to be pretty damn special for me to give you a 3rd chance, and you've screwed me over somehow. And again, depending on how people act, right? So it's funny, because I've been doing virtual speaker platform summits for just over 4 years. And this year I committed to doing one every single month. And so I had this young lady who said she was a professional speaker and said actually that she was a paid speaker. So I thought, oh, wow, she's great. This will be perfect. She needed a payment plan, and I've never had to give anyone a payment ever, but I gave her one. And I thought, okay, she clearly wants to speak. So she comes on, she speaks for 15 minutes. That was her, instead of half an hour. And her microphone was completely off on the whole time. Like, that sound?
No connection.
And I'm like, oh my goodness. Later, I talked to her and I said, girlfriend, I go, what's going on with your microphone? Like, you can't speak like that anywhere. Well, she goes, yeah, we were just moving. I have a Yeti. And I said, well, what in the heck is it? Get it out. And she's like, it's in a box. And you're on a summit, for crying out loud. You're not doing like a 5 to 10 minute live on Facebook that you can remove later on if you need to. Like, how rude, really. And then the payments were lagging, the one, and I'm like, oh my gosh, if I have to remind you each time for a payment, I just can't even be bothered, And so I'm like, yeah, that person, no second chance, no third, no nothing. Like, just no.
Well, she put herself in a box, right?
Yeah.
With her Yeti. So her and her Yeti are in a box now. So fun. Fun. What's your answer to that question that you asked?
I do a combination of what the two of you think about that. I honestly don't know what's going on with them. So I rarely jump to conclusions. I hope they're okay. Maybe something bad happened. Maybe another emergency came up. I usually give them the benefit of the doubt. Now, the next step is something that the two of you may or may not agree with. And I usually would message them back. And I always say something like, oh, it looks like we've miscommunicated somehow. I'm very sorry that we couldn't meet and whatnot. I have people telling me, that was not your fault. Why are you apologizing? But in my mind, I have no idea. Maybe they interpreted my email differently. Maybe they interpreted my text message differently. I don't know. Hence, I usually reply it that way. After maybe 2 or 3 times, if it still happens, then I'm usually going, okay, I'm done. It's in their court now. If they reach back to me, depending on what they say, what they do, we'll then have potentially a shorter leash on my side and go, okay, we'll see where this goes. And you never know, because sometimes those second, third chances turns out to be a long-lasting relationship, and I have a couple of those too. So I never completely cut somebody out of my life, but the leash is a little bit shorter depending on who they are.
I love that. Go ahead, Marianne.
Sorry, no, I was just going to say I like that. And you know what? Because you're saying, I'm sorry we didn't meet. So yeah, I'd be sorry for that, right? You're not sorry to them that he didn't show up. You're sorry you didn't meet, right? That's nice. Sorry. Please.
Usually I say, sorry I missed you.
Yes.
That's my, that's what I put on my subject line. Sorry I missed you.
Actually, I think I've used that too.
Yeah. Take a look at this, guys. Take a look. Let me know what you think after.
In a world where words shape destinies and connections forge futures, this November 22nd to the 24th, Speaking Prowess brings you the ultimate hands-on workshop. We have a lineup of some of the most influential communication experts in the industry. These are the voices that will guide you on a journey to enhance your ability to connect, influence, and succeed. Sifu Raphael, master instructor and founder of Speaking Prowess, blends communication and leadership to help you reach your full potential. Richard Walsh brings his strategic and tactical expertise to deliver rapid, lasting results for your business. Dr. Oliver T. Reed, the international multi-best-selling author and motivational speaker, known as the Writing Coach, will help you craft your messages with precision. Jose Escobar, a nationally recognized speaker and leader, will guide you in mastering personal development and leadership skills. This is more than just an event. It's a game-changing, skill-building experience. Walk away with communication prowess that transforms your personal and professional life. Speaking Prowess, where communication becomes your superpower. Reserve your seat now.
Amazing.
Who's coming? Who's coming?
I am if I'm not going to my other event. I'm semi-committed to it, and it's in another country with Lori.
Oh, okay, cool.
If she's still watching.
Yeah. So consider everything we've been talking about. It's the communication that we have with ourselves, but yet the communication that we need to set rules or boundaries. But those have to be clear. The message has to be clear. If it's cloudy, then you really didn't set boundaries. You allowed loopholes. So do we allow loopholes when we set boundaries? That's the question for both of you guys.
No loopholes, but you can make you can make exceptions, conscious exceptions. Loopholes to me indicate that it wasn't quite a conscious decision. Like, oops, I forgot to mention this, so I didn't communicate in full.
Right.
I think from my perspective, the question's somewhat similar to people not respecting those boundaries. And it's not a matter of a loophole, it's a matter of misunderstanding or unknowns. So if they didn't know, they don't know. So therefore, they'll do what they think is best for them. And they'll reach out, they'll ask a question, they'll be late, whatnot, because it wasn't specified to begin with. Hence, they don't know. Is that a loophole? I don't know if it's a loophole, but it's one of those things where if you communicate it correctly at the beginning, then you have your grace afterwards if it shows up, and then you implement the ejection. So depending on how you want it.
You hit the ejection button.
Delete. Eject. Shoot.
You hit this button right here.
I do want to say something on that, because communication is a two-way street. It's not just one person communicating. So I could be giving thorough instructions. I had a lady this week, and she's a lovely, lovely young lady, but I don't know what's going on, what's happening up here. But I would say one thing and she would come back with something else. And I'm like, how did you get that out of this? What came out of my mouth? I don't understand. And then I would repeat myself, make sure that I, and and it's like, here, you need 5 of these to get 1 of these. Oh, so I need 1. I said, no, you need 5. So I need 6. I'm like, no, 5. I'm like, I don't understand. Where are you getting the 6 from? But, and it's just, I don't know what's happening and what's going on inside of her head, and what, when she's receiving the communication, what she's doing with it and how she's interpreting it. And it's not my fault, and it's not her fault maybe either, but this is what's going on for whatever reason. I don't know something, but it was, we were talking about a product that was going to help her with that actually. So, but yeah, it's kind of funny.
So she really needs the product.
She really needs the product badly. And I'm like, I get it. I have days like that, but not quite that, like intense and so pronounced, but yeah.
I got 2 quick stories that came up when you were sharing that.
Yeah.
When it comes to tenants, you know how you have that lease, and the lease is in legal speak, and it's somewhat confusing and all that kind of stuff. So I do go over the lease in layman's terms so that they understand rents due, your responsibilities, and all that kind of stuff. But after the lease, I also have another 1-pager of responsibilities that we go through again, which is another repetition of what we just did. And then a 3rd sheet, line item of I will pay rent, initial. I will respect the property, initial. And I have to read through each one so that at least they understand what they're doing. So then they're initialing throughout the entire sheet. So that's how I like to communicate with my tenants. The second story is more of a just for fun story. We were at the restaurant, and my wife walks off, and I see her coming back. And before she comes back, I want her to grab something because my daughter needs a fork. So I turn over, and she's like in the foreground. I go, and she goes, okay. And she comes back, and she has 3 forks in her hand, and gave it to me. Like, why do I need 3? She goes, well, you said 3 forks. I'm like, no, I just need a fork.
That's cute. But I love that. I love the lease thing. I'm going to do that. If I ever have to do it, I'm doing that. No, that's an excellent way of doing it. No,
there's also
communication.
I've had some coaches who actually records them repeating it too, so that they repeat what the word is or the words are, and then they'll initiate.
Nice. I love that. Honestly, I love that.
So we're not just the Heroes Rising. We're teaching you how to make more money and keep the money that you make with real estate. Keep the money. I want to thank you both for having the time and actually showing up and being here. So we do have the boundaries of we have to end the show because in about a half hour, I have the master class, and I hope you will make it. Thank you both for being here. I really appreciate the ideas, the concepts, and your contribution to this conversation. So thank you both.
Thank you so much for having me on as a guest.
Yeah, you know we love you, right? And Fang, you're amazing, my friend. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Fang, it was a pleasure meeting you, and Sifu, it's always a pleasure.
Yeah.
Yes.
Great connecting
All right.
with you.
All right, you guys take care. Have a great day, everybody.
Have a
Look forward
great
to
day.
seeing you next time. Take it easy.